Hello, my friends. My question was, what's your next step? You're not going to know what the end point is. We all want to know what the end point is, but that is an ego-based question. It is something that comes out of fear. We don't actually need to know what the end point is. I mean, we all know that sooner or later we're going to die. So in that regard, we always know what the end point is. Although we all have differing opinions on what that actually means. But I felt called to pull this deck. This is the Sacred Path Oracle. And normally it is a deck I use for asking for advice on what your next step is. And this isn't, I'm not asking for advice. This is telling you this is your next step. It's not a big difference. It's a pretty subtle difference. But for some reason, I felt like this was what I had to do. And yeah, the new abilities card was where it came out. So I expect that as you are continuing on your journey through life, and growing and developing and maturing, you are discovering new things about yourself. And most recently, you have or are about to discover new abilities. And this may sound like a wonderful thing. Sometimes it's really unnerving and people have a really hard time accepting their new abilities and knowing what to do with them. It can be a real shock to your identity. One of the things that I finally realized in my 30s, I think, was that I actually am very well coordinated. For example, and it was definitely a big change in my identity. So it might be something as seemingly small as that. I mean, it's just not like I was going to try to become a professional athlete at that point, but it definitely changed a lot of the way I thought about myself. And you may be having that kind of an experience as well. Of course, it could also be new abilities that are less socially acceptable, particularly if you are discovering intuitive abilities or psychic abilities or spiritual abilities. I don't know how you would categorize them, but they may be less acceptable to your community, your current community. So, I suppose the question is, what should you be doing with your new abilities? Or how is that playing out in your life right now? I've been seeing a lot of the Page of Swords. The Page of Swords is very uncertain. They're supposed to be curious and inquisitive and learning and all that stuff, but they're not well established, so to speak, because they are a page. So kind of learning to walk kind of thing. I know we all, or almost all of us, learn to walk at some point in our lives, usually very young, but can you imagine what it was like when you're very young and you learn to walk? How empowering that is? We don't remember, and we certainly didn't think about things the same way at that age. But we go from being someone who is always carried around somewhere, who doesn't really have much control over their lives, to someone who has a great deal more control, a great deal more ability to interact with the world and get into trouble, of course. But this new ability maybe empowering you as well. We have the King of Swords. So maybe you are moving from the Page of Swords to the King of Swords. Not that the Page of Swords has come out, but I've just been seeing it a lot lately. So the King of Swords is obviously someone who has a lot more experience, is a lot more comfortable with their abilities. They are insightful, they have clarity of mind, they have integrity, and they are comfortable with authority. Perhaps you need to get comfortable with being an authority. But right now, it appears the number 4 might have meaning for you too. It's usually a number of foundation. So you are laying the foundations, perhaps, to become the King of Swords. And now we have the 9 of Pentacles. Interesting. I'm not going to talk about that one yet. It's interesting they have similar colors, these two cards. Different suits. So this particular deck is, every card is made by a different artist. So there's less continuity in terms of the look of each suit. All right, so perhaps you want to be the King of Swords. Perhaps there's a King of Swords in your life who is having a big impact on you. Maybe a mentor. This could be a positive influence. They do have a lot of integrity. They do have leadership skills. They do have clarity of mind. But it looks like you are also feeling very overwhelmed. And you have not been taking time to be alone, to work through things, to work on yourself, to become comfortable with these new abilities, perhaps. And we have that in 2 places. So the 9 of Pentacles is sort of a lesser hermit. And over here we have the actual hermit. So 2 9s, if that has meaning for you. And they are both reversed, which tells me that you have not been taking the time that you need to integrate these new abilities, to come to terms with them, to understand them better, perhaps practice using them. There is definitely a lack of clarity with the Ace of Swords in reverse. In the upright, we're talking about an aha moment, a flash of understanding, clarity, inspiration, but that is all blocked because you are overwhelmed with a lot of other things. There's a lot of confusion in your mind, and there may be a lot of people around you, a lot of distractions, not necessarily people, and it's preventing you from doing the work that you need to integrate and develop your abilities and to become a master of them. It's all well and good to have new abilities, but if you don't figure out how to use them, then they're not doing any good, are they? And there's a lot of purple. Blue and purple. Okay. So that's where you are now. That's pretty prescriptive. You need to spend some time alone. There's no indication of a mentor here. I mean, this is possibly a mentor, but I'm not seeing any other card suggesting a mentor. But this feeling of overwhelm that you're experiencing is clearly due to you just not making or taking the space and time for yourself to just sit with what's going on. It doesn't have to be a lot of time. I mean, if you just spend 20 minutes journaling or meditating or something. There's a lot of very successful people who practice what they call a power hour first thing in the morning. They get up early and they have 1 hour all to themselves. They spend 20 minutes exercising, whatever form of exercising you prefer, 20 minutes meditating, and 20 minutes of journaling. And I do something very similar myself, and it is a really wonderful way to start the day. Definitely a good way to integrate a lot of things. All right, this is unexpected. So this is the Four of Wands. This is a celebration. It can be a marriage. It can refer to your community, friends and family. The people and relationships that you regard as permanent fixtures in your life. Wow. Okay. Apparently there's a lot of temptation in your life. A lot of distractions. No wonder the Seven of Cups showed up right underneath the Nine of Pentacles in reverse. Your family, it appears, is bringing out the worst in you, your community. We have the Devil, so there's a sense of being bound by things that aren't actually binding you. That's an illusion. This may also refer to the Seven of Cups, which also talks about illusions. And Knight of Wands in reverse. So that's kind of the player energy. I don't know if you need me to say anything more about that, but if you're not actually a player, then you are definitely fickle and unable to commit to anything, except perhaps your bad habits, vices, and addictions, because you are definitely looking at them, but maybe you are looking at them and understanding that, or coming to an understanding that they aren't benefiting you, that they are a binding that you've chosen to put on and that you can also take off. I'm not saying it'll be easy, but you can do it. All right. Is there anything else you need to know? I get the sense that you are feeling very, very uncertain, insecure, overwhelmed. Let's see if the Divine has anything to say about that. One sec while I straighten out my deck here. Any more tarot cards? Any more messages regarding these new abilities? What do you need to know about the influence of those around you? It looks like you have a lot of toxic masculinity around you. That's probably what your biggest interference is right now. Is this coming from a culture of toxic masculinity, which, it's very common. And it may be a set of beliefs that you've been surrounded by it your whole life, I would guess. So you think it's perfectly normal and acceptable and it's the way to live. And it's not. It's not going to lead you to any good results. I've looked into some of the online stuff and what they call the manosphere, and that is definitely going to lead you into more unhappiness. And it will not help you develop any new abilities. Certainly not positive ones. Remember, the golden rule always applies. If you don't want to be treated that way, then you don't treat other people that way. And if they behave badly, walk away. Right? You don't have to stay. Well, this is interesting. This was sitting over by itself. I didn't even notice it. The moon in reverse. Secrets coming to light, or perhaps you are not looking at your shadows. If you are in, a toxic masculine situation, there's shadows everywhere. You are practically in a windowless basement, whether you realize it or not. And, these new abilities that are coming out, I'm not sure if they're too compatible with your current situation, your surroundings. Painful ending. Perhaps that's what you're afraid of. Painful ending to the life you've known. It may be the case. But even though it's painful, that doesn't mean it's the wrong choice. I wish you all the luck.